What's up, y'all? I have arrived at 1964 as I continue reading or rereading Marvel Comics in French editions, and I've arrived at the first issue of Daredevil. I guess April 1964 is when it's cover dated, so let's dive into it. I was going to look, I have an English copy, even though I'm reading them in French, but the coloring's not very good, so I feel like I'm just going to look at the French edition, and you guys are going to have to deal with it because otherwise, it's the exact same thing. It's just in color, and the coloring is so much cleaner on this edition. So I'm gonna go with this one just to look at this. Let's take a look at the cover first. Where is it? They put them in the back in these things. Let's see. Where is it? All right. Issue. Oh, here we go. Issue one. Daredevil, the man with l'homme sans pur. Man without fear. Interesting cover. You think if you just see this casually, maybe Spider-Man and Fantastic Four are making an appearance, but no, they're just on there to say like, hey, this is in the same tradition as those comics. So if you like those, you better get this one too. It's a pretty good cover, I think. I mean, it looks almost like Daredevil looks almost like Kirby. I don't know who did this cover. If I don't think it's a Kirby cover actually. I think the hands and the way these thugs down here are drawn look like the rest of the art inside, which is credited to Bill Everett. So I don't think I think it's just done in the style of Kirby, but this hand looks kind of Kirby-esque. But I think no, I don't think it is a Kirby cover. It's a nice cover though. I think it's pretty iconic. I think maybe you don't need all this junk on the right. You could have done a better cover, but still, it's a pretty good cover, pretty memorable, and yeah, the reason I'm kind of looking at this issue is because as I continue reading, I'm going to say like 1963 was kind of a mixed year in Marvel Comics in which there were some sparks of creativity, some wonderful moments, but there's also a lot of bad art, a lot of bad storytelling, and mediocre reused plots that we've seen a million times before. So it was a mixed bag, and I'm finding so far that with 1964 that it's much better year. The art is improved. Kirby's back on Thor. I noticed. I may look at Thor because his inking on this recent issue of Thor I just read was some of his best art that I've seen, and it's inked, I believe, by Chick Stone. So I just wanted to say though that usually when there was an artist that isn't Kirby or Ditko, the art's usually pretty mediocre or even bad. But I was impressed with this issue of Daredevil. I'm not sure if I've ever read it before. I certainly know the origin. I remember reading that wonderful miniseries that Frank Miller did with John Romita Jr., and I read Miller's run on Daredevil, but I'm not sure if I've read these early issues, maybe just like one or two. But anyways, I was impressed enough by the art on this that I wanted to kind of take a closer look. They look like they've done the exact same image that's on the cover. They just like pasted it on the cover. Yeah, so Bill Everett is credited with the art. No inkers credited. Let me look in the other one, see if there's an inker credited. The original. Uh, no, there's just Bill Everett. So I don't know if he inked it himself or if they didn't credit the inker. Who knows? But anyways, it's nice. I think the art is pretty nice. Let's take a look. It's different too from Kirby and Ditko. It's got a cartooniness. It reminds me a little of almost like Will Eisner or kind of a lot of Mad Magazine art. It looks like Mad Magazine. So there's like some thugs. They're hanging out, and Daredevil pops in, and we get. I kind of like how they introduced it because it's like we don't get any origin. We just boom. Here's Daredevil. He's here to fuck you up, and he beats the crap out of these thugs. It's in a gym, so he gets to do all these tricks, and there's just like this kind of wonkiness to it that I liked. It's not like not it's definitely not like Fantastic Four. It's a little like Spider-Man, but it's got like a little different feel to it, and just like a cartooniness. But every now and then it jumps into kind of like a more realistic vein. Um, but I was enjoying it, and I think it's a lot of the storytelling has really improved in Marvel, and this is kind of a good example of Stan Lee not working with Ditko, not working with Jack Kirby. So maybe Stan Lee's abilities as a writer were improving a little, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much Bill Everett did. You just can't know. And but basically, we get Daredevil's origin. He's a studious kid. His dad was a boxer. Blah blah blah. And but just like look at the way these characters are drawn. They're so cartoony, but they're dealing with these realistic situations. But it just looks so, like almost like a Hanna-Barbera cartoon or something. And but then it jumps back. Like there's a contrast between this cartooniness and this kind of attempt at a more realistic style. And then we get Daredevil's origin. I was thinking about how this is almost like exactly in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like they have the exact same origin. um, I guess they were making fun of Daredevil. I don't know. So, anyways, Daredevil gets blind. He gets superpowers. He's from the radiation, whatever. Um, these thugs don't have eyeballs. That's kind of like something you see in Jack Kirby thugs and his gangsters. They're always hiding their eyeballs. So there's kind of this theme of eyes, hidden eyes. I don't know if there's like any characters with pupils in this entire book. Maybe the assistant. What's his name? Foggy Nelson. And Daredevil's like lifestyle or his office is almost like in Thor. Basically, he's got this office with this secretary that he's attracted to, but because he's handicapped, he's like, oh, I can't make a move on her. There seems to be like almost this back in the '60s. Like if you didn't make a move on your secretary, there was something wrong with you. Like that was like expected of you. So he becomes Daredevil to avenge his dad, blah blah blah. Early Daredevil costume is very different from the red costume that we get later on. And but again, look at this. This art though just looks. It almost looks like 1980s to me. It reminds me of the 1980s. So I thought it was very ahead of itself. I mean, it could be the coloring too, kind of confusing me, throwing me off. Mm. So it is at the cartoonier end of thing, like the with all these speed lines and the action explosion when something happens, really drawing your attention to it in that sort of manga sort of way. Like things are really emphasized visually. Daredevil gets pushed out a window, but he swings back in. Um, so basically, the panels are sometimes the backgrounds are kind of limited. I feel like that's maybe the weaker part of this is that there's very little backgrounds, and that's kind of something you see a lot with sort of a sign between a good cartoonist and a great cartoonist. A great cartoonist can handle any kind of backgrounds and do anything. So even like in this scene on the street, we get people in the background, but no architecture. So I think my impression is that Bill Everett, he's very good at faces and cartooning that kind of cartooniness of the face. But whenever there's like buildings in the background, they're just very vague, very limited, and he tries to avoid it if he can. And then we get like kind of a noble murder, as I call it, when a hero, he kind of he doesn't technically kill a villain or something, but he kind of forces the villain's death, and it's kind of a cheap way of killing a villain without putting the blame on the hero. So, anyways, first appearance of Daredevil, and one thing though that I found kind of I don't know. I'm curious about how this came about. But Bill Everett seems to just disappear after this issue. I don't know if he ever comes back on Daredevil. But after this, like right away, Joe Orlando takes over, and then Wally Wood will take over a few issues later. So I don't know how much he was involved with the design of Daredevil or the creation of Daredevil. But it's kind of unfortunate that he didn't stick around for more issues. I would have liked to see what he could do with it because he definitely has a way of making Daredevil look different from Spider-Man, different from any of the other Marvel titles at this time. And I don't really remember how. I mean, this is clearly a different Daredevil in issue 2 when we get Joe Orlando on. This looks much more realistic to me. but we'll get to that later. I just wanted to take a look though at the first issue. I thought it does stand out. The art, I think it is quite an improvement on a lot of the art that was coming out of Marvel at the time, and it's a good contender for Steve Ditko, and definitely not the mastery of backgrounds that Jack Kirby has, but still some nice art and nice storytelling that kept me interested. And I'm looking forward to future issues of Daredevil. Just wished Bill Everett had stuck around a little. I'm gonna take a look ahead and see if he does come back. I don't think he's back on any issues. Let's see. This looks like Wally Wood still. Yeah, Wally Wood. So I don't know. Does Bill Everett come back? We'll see. I think next I'm going to look at an issue of Thor because I think it is where Jack Kirby's starting to dump his energy and that a lot of ideas and the narrative techniques and things that he would bring in the New Gods later on. So stay tuned for that soon.